teetering on the edge and kind of clinging on by your fingernails. It's great fun to play because no matter what the scene that you're doing at the moment, there's always something in the back of your head that's going appetite, 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 feed me, feed me, feed me, which is what vampires are all about, really. Always at the back of their mind there is this terror, and for Hal it's this horrendous past that he's been running and running and running from, and that he's incredibly remorseful about it. He feels very, very guilty, and Kirby, the ghost, comes in episode 4 and kind of, says, I met quite a lot of your friends in purgatory, and that's for Hal is, a real kind of a slap in the face, because, obviously, you think someone's dead and they've just moved on and they've gone on with it, but these people are still in purgatory suffering because of things that Hal has done. So he knows always, every morning that he wakes up, he knows that that could be the day that things could go wrong again. And it's that idea of Hal trying to kind of stay focused and trying to utilize the different kind of routines that Leo has given him to kind of stay safe, because of the horrendous things that could happen, if he goes slightly off track, so that if he lets any sort of emotion in or lets kind of any change into his daily kind of routine, that everything could just collapse around him and he could be suddenly back killing and slaughtering like he did when he was kind of running around Eastern Europe, during the, the 1600s, tearing women, tearing everything that he could get his hands on apart. So it's, yeah, I think that's one of the main things. That's something, that day that he wakes up every day, that could be the day that things go horrendously wrong. Mitchell was just a fantastic character, and Aidan did such an amazing job with it, He was such a cool vampire. And kind of, when I was auditioning for it, I was like, well, are they replacing like for like? Do they want an Irish vampire to replace him? Because I was quite nervous about that. But they told me that, Hal is stiff upper lip, very posh, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, and is kind of coming from a completely different place than Mitchell. And as I read the scripts, it gives you a little bit more confidence, because, Hal is so different to Mitchell. Hal is not cool. He's not cool at all, God bless him, And so I was kind of relieved a little bit to kind of read that, because, to see an amazing character like that, I know the fans absolutely loved Mitchell. I love Mitchell as well. And, you'd be devastated to see your favorite character go, and to see someone come in and try to replace that is very frustrating. So I was kind of happy to see how different Hal and Mitchell actually were. Oh, it's very exciting. It's so much fun when you get the blood on, you get the teeth in. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I can't believe this is my day job, And you go and, Hal goes around kind of, pillaging and raping, and he's just so evil and so malicious. And then you flip reverse it to something that is so completely different, with he's just so afraid of kind of contact with human beings. He's so afraid of beautiful women, because that's what he was so used to. He was so used to any beautiful women that he saw, he'd just dive on. So it's great fun playing the kind of the two polarities of the character. And especially the worst time for Hal is when he thinks everything is going right. Then, obviously this house, everything bad happens in this house in Barry. So stuff is just thrown at him. And it's a lot of it is how he deals with it, and he relies so much on Annie and so much on Tom to kind of keep him safe, really, because he's so terrified about what could happen. Hal and Tom absolutely hate each other. There's just no two words about it. They just can't, because they're so different. Tom is just so the everyman, that talk to anyone, salt of the earth, and Hal is just so completely the opposite. And he's so afraid of touching people, and he's so posh, and he just sees Tom as riffraff. And the added fact that Tom is a werewolf. Tom and Hal are just absolutely destined to hate each other. But I think because they're both kind of on their own, Tom is on his own, he's got no more McNair, and Hal is on his own, they kind of have to kind of forge a brotherhood together. And kind of from about episode 3, the end of episode 3, you actually kind of start to see a kind of little twinkling of kind of, respect for each other. And, not a love, but, a real kind of brotherhood. And that develops throughout the series, which is great, because I think they have some very funny scenes together in the cafe. where Hal is just, Hal is chopping lettuce, and he's just so afraid of getting germs or anything. And Tom comes in and he's chop, 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 and it's Hal I think learns from Tom. Tom learns from Hal, and they're both horrendous with women. So it's very, I think it's very, very funny. Hal and women. Hal is so used to the dowry system and the kind of very, very classical 18th century styles of courting women. And I think he finds kind of modern techniques and modern flirting, absolutely disgusting. It's like you should never say to the lady that you love her. Never say that you'd like. You absolutely treat them with respect and treat them with dignity and that kind of thing. And that's absolutely the right way to do it. Whereas Tom is a little bit more kind of innocent and Tom has been kind of coached by Annie a little bit with women. Just go in there, tell her you love her, and see what happens. Get her drunk and try and shag her. And that is just, not the way to do things, according to Hal. So in episode 6, they both kind of meet women. And it's a disaster, it's just, you just see the two of us, kind of complete losers in love, trying to help each other out. And, two wrongs don't make a right in that respect, because, they just both give each other horrendous advice, and it just crashes and burns so horrendously. It's very, very funny. They go on a date at the museum, a double date, and it's just awful. God, Mr. Snow is one of the greatest characters ever written. We all read episode 7, and it just says Mr. Snow emerges from the dark and says, "Who's hungry?" We were like, oh my God, who is going to play Mr. Snow? And we found out that Mark Gatiss was playing, and it was just like, there was just so much excitement around the set. It was just like, oh my God, this is incredible. Because the first day I got given the character of Hal, there was a documentary by Mark on BBC Three about vampires and vampire films. And I went out and I bought every single film that he'd mentioned on it to see, to research vampires, what it was like to be a vampire, that kind of thing. So I was just, I was in absolute awe of him, and his character is just fantastic. He's so evil. Mr. Snow is so evil, so dirty, so ruthless, and so lethal. And what's so great about the character of Mr. Snow is that he exists in all vampires. So all vampires in their blood that they have transformed into vampires with, there is an element of Mr. Snow's DNA. So ultimately, we all have this kind of connection with Mr. Snow. So he kind of controls us a little bit. So even with his eyes, if you make eye contact with Mr. Snow, suddenly you're in his grasp and you're kind of in his kind of control. So the first couple of scenes I did, I couldn't look at him in the eyes because I was so terrified, because he just stares at you. He just looks at you and he rubs your fingernail, and it's just so it's such a little detail, but it's so powerful. Yeah, he's a very, very scary guy. Yeah, Mum and Dad came down to the set, which was absolutely incredible. They'd never been on a set before. So we got dropped off on a set, and we went around the corner, and Tom and Milo were having their massive fight on the bridge. And I remember my dad was like, "This is incredible, what's going on?" And they came in and they met everyone, and everyone was so lovely to them, gave them seats just beside the monitor, so they watched on the monitor. And then we had myself and Alex rent a ghosting, so they came down, they were beside the camera, and they were just kind of looking, kind of watching the camera, and then we had the massive explosion. And they were absolutely speechless. We had lunch together afterwards, and they just couldn't believe what they'd seen. I think they were both absolutely spellbound. It was absolutely incredible. I was so proud that they could see it,
Oh, it must be so nice to show you folks.
Yeah, it was brilliant, It was just so exciting, just kind of showing them everything and how it all works, behind the scenes, because they love movies, and I think that's, a lot of the magic happens, behind the scenes, to make it all look as good as it does. So much work has to go on behind the scenes, and I think they couldn't believe how long it takes to do, a shot or to do the fight or that kind of thing. So they were very respectful of how hard we have to work, and it was just a real privilege to be able to show them.